Okay, welcome to this morning Qigong, yoga, stretching, breathing class. Let's settle in to our seat. Now, I'm really excited about this exploration we've been doing of our center. So we're going to keep working on that today in yoga and Qigong. So again, let's begin our seat today by rocking forward and back. And as we do, as you rock back, feel up. I'm rocking across my sit bones towards my tailbone at the bottom of my sacrum, rocking forward towards my pubic bone, pubic symphysis. And as I rock, I can feel my hip pointers rock forward and rock back. And that may change the distance a little bit between my hip pointers and my ribs. And just notice how the vertebrae change position to change the placement of the rib cage and the hip pointers. And then as you rock, feel into where does this motion begin? I love this question lately. How does this motion start? And then stop the rocking where your spine is neutral. Feel into rooting your sit bones, and are your sit bones really grounding well? And then lengthen up out of the pelvic floor, up the channel of the spine, through the crown chakra, into the sky. And think of this Qigong idea. We are conduits of energy between earth and sky. This energy moves through us, and it moves us. So feel for energy moving through your physical form. And then sitting still, ask yourself, if I were to begin to rock my body, how would I initiate the movement? Where would the movement come from? And feel into your mind's response. Where would the movement come from? And then rock your body and see if you can feel where the movement comes from. Can we begin to feel this center of gravity more frequently in our daily lives? We don't remember this, but when we were little toddlers and we were learning to stand up and walk, we were having great experiments with this center of gravity. Let's come to stillness again. Now breathe in along the channel of the spine. And see if you can really feel the channel of the spine. The muscles right against the bones. Any sensations along the spine. And then lengthen the spine and notice how that feels, what muscles activate. And then relax the spine and notice how you may give in to the hug of gravity. And then lengthen the spine again up out of the sit bones. Notice if muscles awaken inside the pelvis, along the neck, in the jaw. And then relax the spine again. Notice the movement between the vertebrae, between the ribs, and now undulate your spine with your breath. Inhaling, lengthen it. And exhaling, relax and soften the curves. And just spend a few quiet moments here, breathing the spine long and relaxing it, and letting your concentration come to this center core of the body. Feeling deep into your apple core. Now feel into how the head sits on top of the undulating spine. And play a little bit with what happens if I lift my heart. Where does that put my head? What happens if I lower my gaze towards my knees? Where does that put my head? Come back to level and jut your chin forward of your body and feel how the base of your skull also comes forward. And then draw the chin and the base of the skull back and jut the chin and the base of the skull forward. And pause. Where is your head in relationship to your spine? And then draw the head back as far as it will go. And pause. Where is the head in relationship to the spine? See if you can find a neutral landing place for the head to bobble above the spine. And then let your head sway a little back and forth. If you've ever seen the head bobble of people from India, let your head go and let it bobble a little bit. Let go of those muscles that can become hypertonic and tense between the skull and the top of the spine. And then draw a very small circle with your nose, like a dime-sized circle. And feel into the muscles that connect the skull to the spine. Take your dime-sized circle the other way. And now draw a quarter. And take the quarter the other way. Really concentrate on what muscles you're feeling between the skull and the spine. And now draw a tennis ball sized circle. And take the circle the other way. And let the circle get a little larger if that's comfortable, and a little larger. Still feeling into how do the muscles that connect my skull to my spine, how do they move? How do they feel? Do I have snap, crackle, and pop going on? Take your circles the other way. And then bring your hands up and wrap them around your skull, thumbs at the base of the skull, and lift the skull. Lift the base of the back of the skull and rest your head back. Bring your elbows forward and really let your head rest back as you lengthen the back of the neck. Really rest the hyoid bone in and up. So it's a horseshoe-shaped bone, and the prongs of the horseshoe are aimed up towards the base of your skull as you lift the base of the skull. And then release that and let your head rest back over the skull. Let your eyes rest back into their sockets. Come into your three-dimensional breath and invite the breath deep into the belly. Invite the breath to expand your side waists. And imagine, excuse me, that there's a tennis ball sized focal point, either in or a little above your pelvis. That's a point from which you center. It's your center of gravity. As you stand and walk and dance, breathe into that center of gravity. Imagine it expanding three-dimensionally and filling your abdomen. And then relaxing on the exhale and sending its energy out through the body. Breathe into how this center of gravity connects you to Earth, helps you to feel stable, balanced. Now breathe up from that center of gravity to the heart center, behind your sternum, and imagine another tennis ball size orb that inflates as you inhale and releases energy throughout the body as you exhale. Inhale into both these centers and into the channel between them. And today, as we move, feel how these two centers interact with each other and how we move around them, around their magnetism. Now visualize one more ping pong ball sized focal point where your soft and hard palates meet at the roof of your mouth. And let these three orbs float one over the other. Let them pulse energy. On the inhale, they expand. On the exhale, they send energy through the body. They float one over the other. So float that palate ping pong ball over the heart, over the pelvis. And as you inhale, imagine the strings between them glowing and lengthening. And as you exhale, relaxing slightly. And as you inhale, these focal points brighten. And as you exhale, energy ripples out from them in every direction through the body. Now let your arms fall down to the side bodies and inhale. Let your arms rise like wings. And exhale, release them. And feel into that center channel from pelvis through heart to palate. And see if it can be a stable, centering channel. And how your arms move from the heart focal point, connecting to the earth through the pelvic focal point, keeping the head a part of the movement, part of the whole, connecting to the palate. Now float your arms up into a Y shape above your head. So your spine is the body of the Y. Your arms are the limbs of the Y. And now gently side bend to the left. And feel how that line of energy from pelvis to heart to palate changes shape and come back to center. And side bend a little to the right. And feel how you have to shift your weight sort of on your sit bones around that center of gravity, along the spine, through the heart center, and how you can still lengthen from the heart into the palate and come back to center and release your wings. And inhale, hands to the heart. May we be more and more awake to our centers of gravity and to this center channel that we move around all day long. Namaste. Okay, let's come to standing. And let's move any dog bones or pet toys off of our mat. And let's take our feet wide and gently rock. Where does this movement originate from? Become still, pause, and then start right. How do you move? And are you moving that pelvic center? And let your arms swing. And see if you can close your eyes or at least lower the lids so you bring the concentration into the body. And feel into the heart center above the pelvic center and how the arms move in relationship to the channel, to the heart center. Even the heart center connecting with the palate. How does the neck move? And then let your feet ground and inhale. Let the arms rise up one side and exhale down the other. And feel how your weight shifts from side to side as your arms move. You can bend the knees, feeling for the most easeful motion possible. But feel, where do you center the movement from? How do we stabilize into the legs and connect up into the arms and the head? What unifies the movement? Let your hands come down and then inhale up the other way and exhale down. Feel into the fluid movement. Really let your consciousness concentrate on this center channel of the spine, the sensations along it as you move your arms. And if there's any pinching or discomfort, can you modify the movement of your body to make whatever's hurting or stiff feel better? It's a practice of listening, listening to sensation. And then let your hands rest down in Wuji. And let the palate float up above the heart, heart above the pelvis. And let the arms begin to swing around the body. Stay with your consciousness of the spine. How does it move now? I took the bone off the mat. Now the dog is back with a bone on the mat. Fluid, arm swing. Let the arms go. But how do they connect into the shoulder girdle? How are they supported around the heart center? And what happens at the orb, at the palate? Perhaps your hands come up and knock on the lungs and the kidneys, and we knock on the door to life. But today, even as we knock, can you stay conscious of the center channel? How do you keep this movement going? How do you keep yourself balanced as you twist? And then release the arms and slow the twist. And pause. Let the hands come right up under the armpits, pressing down towards earth, and inhale. Look out over your right shoulder and exhale around to look over the left. And remember, we don't need to crank the neck as we do some of the brocades, and we look out the far corners of the eyes. And how do we even do just this head movement? How do we stabilize for the turning head? Are you trying to do it with your shoulders? Or are you grounding your feet from your pelvis? And then bring your fingers around your thumbs and bend the knees, feet wide. And take the left palm up and out and right elbow back like you're pulling on a bowstring. And exhale. Let the right hand move forward and draw the bowstring back. And exhale, release the bow. And inhale, draw the string. And exhale, and inhale. Even here, how do you move around the center channel? And then open up and circle pinky ring and middle fingers into the palm. And let yourself rest with gaze out over your index finger. And right here, pause and feel into your balance side to side. Feel into the center channel and how you ground. And exhale, hands back to center. And inhale, draw the left elbow back, right palm forward. And exhale, release the bow. And inhale, draw the string. And exhale, release the bow. And inhale, draw the string. All the while you're seated on your horse. Perhaps your horse is galloping. How do you keep your seat on that horse? And pause with the arrow pulled back, the string pulled back, and circle the pinky ring and middle fingers in. And relax at the base of the neck. And feel into the heart center. And from the heart center up to the palate. And from the palate, how do you arrange your eyes? And then feel all the way back down to the pelvis, focal point seated over the horse. And release. And roll one shoulder and roll the other and stretch the fascia. And perhaps the elbow stretches out and we stretch ourselves open and feel how the spine moves as you undulate and you reach and lengthen. Now really kind of make the movement big for a moment and feel like, okay, where do I center back to as I reach and kind of lunge a little bit and then come back to a more easeful motion, fluid, and rest back into Wuji. And let your middle fingers touch and inhale the arms up. And exhale, palms land on the head and inhale, reach the knuckles skyward. And exhale, release the arms and inhale, arms rise. And exhale, palms touch the head. And inhale, stretch the palms skyward, the gaze looks up. And exhale, release. And inhale, the arms rise. And exhale, the palms land on the head. And inhale, we stretch the knuckles skyward. And exhale, release. And inhale, the arms lift. And exhale, palms land. And inhale, palms stretch up, gaze stretches up. Feel the channel of your spine. And exhale, release. And bring your hands to the back side of your body and let them run down the backs of your legs towards your heels. And pause here, connecting in with the center of gravity, the heart, and the palate, and then roll back up. How do you unwind it? And then lift the heart, lift the palate, lift to the balls of the feet, and exhale, land the heels, and run the hands down the backs of the legs, and back up, and lift, and down. This actually takes some awareness in the center of gravity, right? When you're folding forward over the center and then coming back up to the toes. We are doing the brocades right now. And then release to your heels and pause in Wuji. Fluid breath. And heels together. Let's take the left wings out and draw them back in and become that crane, standing easy in the wetland. Really feel into that long channel of your spine and how light it is with your bones hollow and your big wings. And bring the hands back in and inhale the heart up, or the hands up under the heart and release. And as the elbows bend, bend the knees and release. And we inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale, perhaps up to the toes. So can you connect your heels into the pelvic focal point, into the heart, into the palate, and stretch the entire line as you lift and lower. Think of that floating orb of the palate, floating above the heart. Beautiful line, Jill, above the pelvis. Beautiful. And relax your heels and let the arms float up. Fingers touch the thumbs like a beak closing, and then the hands open. And we close and open and inhale and exhale. Now ask yourself, are you leaned forward or back? Are you really centered front to back so that your body can relax into the ease of the arms moving? That center channel, ask yourself, where is my head in relationship to my spine? Can I rest in ease here? And when we find that ease, then it makes the next move easier. When we exhale and bring the hands to cup the knees and cross the arms and lift to a toe, and exhale, the knee rises and arms rest. And we pause in balance. Now again, the heart rests back over the pelvis and the palate rests back over the heart. Try it, even if you fall over. Try letting your head really rest back. And release. And inhale, the arms rise. Exhale, hands cup the knees. Inhale, we rise to the other toe. Exhale, the arms rest wide and the knee rises. And we play with that center channel. And does this awareness help us find balance? And we release, and we inhale, and exhale, and float to the next toe, and land the arms as we lift the knee, and stay with our three-dimensional breath. Can you imagine these three orbs glowing on the inhale and sending energy through the body on the exhale? And then we release, and we inhale, and exhale, and inhale to the next toe, and exhale, and maybe you stay on the toe and you just barely lift it off the floor if balance is a challenge for you. So you can set it back down if you need it, and begin to play with, banks of the river. What if I hug in my glutes a little, or lift the pelvic floor and actually strengthen the channel a little bit? Will that help me find balance? Not stiffening the outer body, but creating a container. And then release and pause in your Wu-Ji. Fluid breath. Filling the whole circumference of your lowest ribs. Relaxing on the exhale. Filling that lower dantian, the heart dantian. Now step 1 foot forward and 1 foot back and begin to rock forward to back. And ask yourself, where does this movement originate? And can we have it really truly originate from the hips? So I see a lot of people when I first start teaching this doing this, where they're really moving their arms a lot and not so much the pelvis. See if the arm movement can come from the pelvis so that you're swinging the arms just by moving the hips. So let the arms completely go for a minute and see if the arms will naturally swing forward as you come to the front foot, right? But you're not doing any forcing of it. You're just letting the arms kind of swing from their heart center. Now just gently let the wrists and fingers kind of trail through the water. Yeah, beautiful. So the arms, it kind of depends on if you step really hard forward and back, your arms are going to swing farther up. Try to make this step really light and fluid and easy right now. Just feel into that effortlessness. So you can go get your cardio later. Feel into finding that ease. And then see if that movement from the pelvis up to the heart, up to the palate, that line staying intact, can draw the arms up towards the heart center and back, and let yourself circle the arms as easily as possible with as little effort in the arms as possible. Fluid. Yeah, that looks good. And feel into the channel, pelvis to heart to palate. And come through the center and take the other side. And just rocking forward to back, with the arms just moving with the rocking on the legs, forward to back. Fluid breath. Feel into your center of gravity and how you maintain balance here. And then let the arms circle up towards the heart. And can you use the focal point at the palate to draw back towards the back foot, to draw the arms in to help the heart? And then pause in your Wuji. Fluid breath. And bring your palms up skyward and exhale them to the left. And inhale center and exhale right and inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale. And while you're breathing and moving, ask yourself, how does my palate line up over my heart? Come back to center and bring your hands to your heart. Line that heart up over the pelvis, palate over the heart, and exhale, push. So we're not leaning over towards the hands. We're keeping that center channel above the pelvis. Exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. Let the breath cleanse that center channel. Coming back to center. Deep breath. And let your hands go. And bring the hands like a windshield wiper across the heart. And exhale, gentle fists out. So it's an inhale, quick exhale. And then roll the arms. Look down at earth and cat curl the spine and roll up to look at the horizon and then roll to look skyward and feel from pelvis to heart to palate as you roll over. How do these orbs of energy stay in relationship to each other? And then as you lift and back bend. And one more time, roll forward and roll up and roll back and come back to center and release. Let your arms open wide, wide, and your feet root deep into the earth and your spine lengthen until your whole body fills the universe. Let it spread out. Let it open up, let it thin. But still, where is your center? If you really reach and spread and let go, what points draw you back in as you come back in with the hands to the heart? And rest the palate back over the heart, over the pelvis, over the center of the earth. Inside the seed pod of your own skin, feel for your three-dimensional breath. And then step 1 foot forward again and very slowly rock forward till your weight's on that front foot. You're filling that leg with weight and lift the back foot, relaxing the arms. Find your center of gravity. And then exhale and slowly roll back onto the back foot and lift the front foot, emptying the front leg. Find your center of gravity. And then continue this slow movement, pausing in balance to feel how you create balance. See if these 3 focal points can help you. Moving slowly can be so informative. You can feel into the banks of your river. Feel into where the movement starts and stops. So there are people who tend to move from their limbs first, and those people are more likely to have injuries, especially in the upper body limbs. So we begin to bring our attention into our gravitational center and ask, can we move from there? Moving the center forward, grounding the center down, lengthening out of the center. And then let's switch sides. Floating forward and back. How does your center of gravity connect in with the 4 corners of your feet when you're balancing over one foot? We don't often take the time to really feel into what's happening. How do I connect the dots? And then let's pause back in the center in Wuji, breathing into the lower dantian. And let the basket rise in your arms, the basket of all good things. Feet outer, hip distance wide. And turn the back leg bends. Turn the basket one direction, the front leg straightens. And then exhale, turn your basket the other way. Lean back over the bending leg. It's not a movement we do in our culture very often. And again, in this new movement, how do you center yourself? And then come back to center and release. And take your hips into a figure eight. Feel that center. Now, that moving center, put one hand on your low belly and one hand on your heart and feel into the spine between them. Now, bring one hand up to kind of point at your upper hinge of your jaw through to the upper palate. And keep in connection, heart center to palate. And let your hands go and let them fly like birds through the air into a gentle twisting of the spine. And just feel into this channel moving. Now, can you take the figure eights into taking the foot off the ground as the hips move, finding this undulation of the hips and the arms in a kind of dance with the body. The center channel is so important in so much work that we do, whether it's modern dance or Pilates or yoga or Qigong. It's a channel for energy and yoga. The Kundalini runs right up the Sushumna channel, front of the spine. Feel into that channel and let yourself rest in stillness. Root into the four corners of your feet. Lift your toes, lift your arches. Relax your toes. Draw energy stockings up the legs to the pelvis and let your tailbone descend like the third leg of a stool. And breathe up through your pelvic floor, up through the pelvis, along the channel of the spine. And let the three orbs rest one over another. Now, a lot of us have the habit of curling the arms forward around the heart center. See if you can open the collarbones and find a lift to the heart and a relaxed back of the palate and a grounding of the tailbone. Fluid breath. And very slowly, let the arms rise up in front of you. Keeping the center of gravity, staying aware of the channel from palate to heart to pelvis to earth. Now relax the shoulders when the arms are high. And slowly lean to the right, rooting into the four corners of both feet, making sure you're not hyperextending at the knees. Feel into how you create balance here. See if some muscles are overworking or gripping. Are there others you could bring on board? Could you activate the banks of the river for support? Could you ground your outer heels, your big toe ball mounts, your pinky toe ball mounts, your inner heels? And exhale back to center. And sway slightly to the left. And feel into how you ground here. And for some of us with asymmetries in the spine or injuries, one direction may be much easier to ground than the other. This is like no work for me, where the other side, it's hard not to grip. Fluid breath. Come back to your center and release your arms. And float up to one toe. And your arms can be wherever they'll help you balance. Like wings, they can rise out a little. See if you can keep the heart lifted, the palate resting back, and float your knee up. And float the foot ahead. And lower the foot. And float to the next toe. Gently hugging in the banks of the river, lifting your knee. Heart stays lifted, palate rests back as you lengthen the leg. And release. And release your wings. And gently roll your shoulders. And rest your shoulders back on the back body broad. Rooting from the outer hips into the outer heels. Float to one toe. This time, take the foot behind you. Pelvis to heart to palate stays open. Let your wings open slightly. See if you can lift the back foot. Balance. Feel into this teeter-totter effect you can create in the body. Counterbalancing. Three-dimensional breath. And release. Take the other toe back. Pelvis to heart to palate. Stay lifted. See if you can float the foot off the floor, almost float it off the floor. How do you maintain connection from palate through heart, through pelvis, to the four corners of the standing foot, to the long lifted leg, to the counterbalancing? And release. Float the left knee out to the side. Stay broad across the shoulder girdle and the pelvis and lift the knee. Can you hug in the banks of your river? Lift through your focal points and point the leg out and lower the foot. And lift to the other knee, out to the side. Hug in the banks of your river. Find that length from pelvic floor through pelvis, through heart, through palate. Lift the knee. Lifted heart. Tailbone grounding. Floating the leg out to lower. And roll your shoulders. And right here, draw your hands up like robot hands and draw the whole of the humerus bone back, broad across the shoulder girdle. Can you rest the palate back? Imagine the walls behind you. Tune into your three-dimensional breath. Pressing back with the humerus bones into the wall behind you, lift to one toe. Lift the knee. Stay long and strong in that channel of the spine and float the foot in front of you. And bend the knee and hinge slightly forward and float the toe behind you. Land it on the floor and then lift it up. Pressing the humerus bone slightly back, broadening across the collarbone. Find the shoulder blades on the back. And release. And again, press your arm bones back into the imaginary wall. Tailbone roots to the earth. Back of the skull rests back into a headrest. And you lengthen the back of the spine. Feel the strength of the back of the spine, the sides of the spines, and lift to the other toe. The shoulders are still resting strong against your wall. Lift the knee. Point the toe. Bend the knee. Step the toe back. Lift the heart. Broad across the shoulders. Lift the back foot. Fluid breath. We're strengthening outer core muscles even as we use the center channel to balance. And release. And pause for a moment in your Wuji or your mountain pose. Tuning into your three-dimensional breath. So let's bring some space into that channel by coming to a wall and lifting your fingers up as high as they'll go. Remember, your hands can be wider than your shoulders so that you can relax your shoulders away from your ears. Come onto the balls of your feet and slowly lower the heels and lower that pelvic focal point away from the heart focal point. Expand the line. Lengthen your side spines. And then it might feel like from heart to palate you've gotten a little crunched up. Let the arms open and broaden a little, keeping the spine long, so the neck can extend out of the shoulder girdle, away from the heart center. Like the palate focal point is a little parachute itself lifting. And now keep this long, strong spine as you walk back towards your half dog, honoring the natural curves of your spine. Support it from underneath. Hug in the banks of your river and float one leg up behind you, maybe coming to fingertips. Still find the line, pelvis to heart to palate, and float the fingertips off the wall. Fluid breath. Connect from your center of gravity into your standing leg. Use the teeter-totter principle to find balance. And then step down, come into the wall for a standing cobra. Root your tail. Stay aware of that channel of your spine, pelvis to now lifting heart to palate center, resting back behind you. Can you lengthen the back of the spine, the sides of the spine, all the way up into the skull? Root the four corners of your feet so you have more leverage to lengthen the spine. And exhale back to standing. Reach your fingers high up the wall again. Really lift up onto the balls of the feet. And then as you lower the feet, lengthen the sides of the spine, the front and back of the spine. Create space. And then broad fingers, lengthen the neck out of the shoulder girdle and walk back into your half dog. Fluid breath along that channel. Make sure that you're not dropping the head through and over hinging the inner armpit. Find the length from heart to palate, from palate to heart to pelvis, and float your next leg up. Try to lift the heel in line with your center of gravity if you can. Yeah, find that length. Beautiful, Jill. Palate to heart to pelvis. Good. And then hug in the banks of your river to create that container. Good work, Susie. You're finding that balance. Fluid breath. You too, Sharon. Nice length, Terry. Good. And then exhale and release. And turn your back to the wall. And come into your, oops, I've got my computer turned the wrong way because of the sun this morning. Okay. Back to the wall. Let your head rest back, broad across your shoulder girdle. Your humerus bones rest back. Root into your heels and lengthen up through the palate. Now let the tailbone go and really feel into that center of the pelvis. And ask yourself, if I'm to lift one to one toe, how do I have to recenter my center of gravity? And do it. And lift to that toe, and then lift that knee. And now, even here, can you hug in the banks of your river and lengthen your spine? Rest the arm bones back and release. Now ask yourself, how do I lift to the other toe? And you may have to lean a little. You find that center of gravity over your standing foot. And then if you can, you lift the knee. Maybe you stay on the toe. And you think of that line, pelvis to heart to palate. And then see, oh, can I lengthen that leg? And step down. Pause again on both feet. Resting both arm bones back. Breathing three-dimensionally into the torso. Relaxing on the exhale. Rooting the heels and breathing up the length of the spine. Relaxing on the exhales. Feel from pelvis to heart to palate. Now right here, lift to one toe again. And turn the knee of the lifted foot out towards your Vriksasana. So you're coming into your tree pose, but you're back against the wall. You're still letting the palate rest back. Maybe you can lift your foot onto your calf. Let the shoulders rest back, the head rest back, your pelvic focal point rest back. And then bring the knee forward and step down. Release your arms and roll your shoulders. And we'll try the other side. Bring the humerus bones back against your wall. Let the palate rest back. Hug in the banks of your river and lift to one toe. Turn the toe out. Perhaps bring the foot to the knee. Really feel into lining up pelvic focal point to heart to palate. Really press the arms back, broad across the shoulder girdle. Let the head rest back. Beautiful. Bring the knee forward and step down. Now come back to your mats. And let's try that same Vriksasana on our mats. So pause in your mountain pose. Bring your arms up, palm facing palm, and humerus bones back into the wall. Ground with your tailbone, the four corners of each foot. And if you know you have four corners that lift off, really try to root them here intentionally. Decide which leg you're going to lift and come to the toe and turn out. Now, still hugging in the banks of your river, press back with your arms, let the palate rest back. See, can you lift your foot onto your calf? Some of you may want to draw the leg up to the inner thigh. Hug the midline with the legs, lengthen the spine out of the midline. And if you'd like to, let the arms rise like limbs. Beautiful. Feel that center channel, pelvis to heart to palate. And let it move gently in the breeze. So we're aware of that channel. Yeah. Beautiful. Come to stillness, bring the knee forward and step down. And roll your shoulders. And rest into your awareness of the center channel. And from that pelvic focal point, root down into the earth and lift your next foot. Come into your knee turnout. Bring your arms up so that you remember to bring your humerus bones back. Imagine that wall still behind you, supporting you. Bring your foot up, perhaps to the inner thigh. So even those of you who can balance in this pose easily, I want you to think of leaning back into that wall, especially with the palate. And then if you'd like, let your limbs rise and let your arms sway in the breeze. And let your spine even undulate in the breeze. And if your tree falls over in the forest, that's okay. You just regrow your roots. And then we bring the knee forward and pause, stepping down. Fluid breath. Balance. Okay, let's reach for a block and try another balance before we take it to some other poses. So we're going to try Garudasana, eagle pose. Step your block outside the left pinky toe, and it's in front of your foot as well as to the side of your foot, to the pinky toe side of your left foot. And then we'll float the right leg up in our cranes, and we'll exhale, land, and we'll inhale, lift. Now here, notice like when I do this, I kind of come forward and lift again. You could play with, what happens if I lean back? Why do I come forward? How am I moving around my center of gravity? Does that feel right? Does that help me balance my heart and pelvis? And then as you're ready, inhale up that right leg and step it over, toes onto the block. Now, your legs can hug apart into each other so that the outsides of the legs are actually pressed into each other as you hug the inner thighs away, or you can just hug towards that center channel. Now, from that center channel, lengthen up the spine and bring your hands to your heart today. So inside your pelvis, you've got your center of gravity. You've got your heart and palate related to it, and see if you can lift your foot off the block or just lighten your foot on the block or take your foot around. Either way, any way. Concentrate on that spine, and maybe you can fold it forward a little, and maybe you can lift it back up a little. You can keep your toe on the block or not. You're strengthening your hips and release. Let's take the block to the other side. Stepping the foot part way up the block, we begin with our cranes, and we exhale down and inhale up. Where does this movement originate? I love that question. Everybody pause, land your toe, land your arms. Visualize how you're going to start this. Where does it initiate? And then feel it as you start. And inhale, and exhale, and inhale, Exhale and inhale the leg up and over, landing on the block. Bring your hands to your heart. Feel into that pelvic focal point, that heart and the palate. And see, can you release some weight from the foot or lift the toes off? Fluid breath. And then play. What happens if you lean forward? How does that change your relationship to gravity? If you lean back, how does the pelvic focal point ground you as the heart focal point moves? And release. Pause in your mountain pose. Fluid breath. Bring your hands just up to your shoulders, elbows wide, and rooting into the feet. Side bend, left elbow slightly towards right hip. Lengthen both side bodies though, broad across your shoulders. Feel how your weight has shifted. How do you counterbalance for that shift? Feel into that pelvic focal point connected to the heart and palate. This may make you lift your head a little because a lot of times we forget where our head is in line with the heart. Make a beautiful arc and come back to center and side bend the other way. Long arc, pelvis to heart to palate. Broad across your shoulder girdle. Check in that your knees aren't hyperextending, that you're still really connecting deep into the earth. And come back to center and release and roll your shoulders. And either bring your chair in or your block for a few of our standing poses. Okay. So step wide and turn your left foot out and come into your star pose. And bend into the front knee, long spine, pelvis to heart to palate. Bring your left hand to your femur, right arm to your ear. Feel into the line, leaning slightly, pelvic to heart to palate. Maybe you come to your forearm and find the lean. Can you lift up from both legs into that pelvic focal point? And from the pelvic focal point, root down into the feet. Lengthen from pelvis to heart to palate. Keep the spine strong and see, can you take some of the weight off? So we're here on the leg, and sometimes I think we slump onto it. Can you take some of the weight off, even float the arm off, start to strengthen the channel of the spine a little bit? Now, I'm not advocating that you lift off completely. Some people do the pose like this, but we want to work in that direction of strengthening the spine. And then come back up, straighten your front leg, find your star pose. And we'll come towards Trikonasana. Now let's take a really high Trikonasana with the arms spread, like you are a star shining in the night sky. Root from your pelvis into your feet and notice how you have to use those roots to lengthen out of the pose. Really find this top shoulder right on your back. Open it up. Let it be a whole new pose, and the pose is, what should we call it? Shining star pose. Okay. Got my yellow sweater on. Shine out of your pose. And then, yeah, maybe it comes lower, but that's not the point. The point is that we're lengthening and strengthening the spine. And we float back up and turn the left leg in and the right leg out. And open into star pose and bend the right knee out over the second metatarsal. Make sure it's not coming in to the big toe side. Pause here and feel into rooting from your pelvic focal point, lengthening up to heart and palate straight over you. Oh, these poses look they look really good. Okay, good, good, good. Right hand to the femur, left arm alongside the ear. Really find that length, pelvis to heart to palate. And maybe you come lower. But if you come lower, you think to yourself, okay, can I root from my pelvic focal point and lengthen my spine and lift off with my lower arm, or almost lift off? So don't strain yourself. Deb's already going for the woo. Be careful with your low back, right? Just find that place where you do feel like, yeah, I can work from here. Yeah, good. And then float back up to Viratu, straight in the front leg. long star pose. And then we'll begin to lean towards Trikonasana. It's not how low you can go, it's how broad you can stay across your shoulder girdle, open at the heart, long in the spine. You don't have to go far. Root from the pelvis down, lengthen through the top of the head. Line up those focal points, pelvis, heart, palate. Beautiful. And float back up and turn the front leg in and step together, mountain. Fluid breath. Relaxing your hands and your arms. Draw breath up the center channel of the spine. Relax breath down. Think of all the tissue between that connect the vertebrae as fluid and strong. And step your legs wide and turn your feet out and bend your knees. Bring your arms up to your goalposts. And really feel each shoulder blade on your back body today, keeping the knees open. Gently twist to the left. Feel into the left shoulder blade connecting to your right buttock, but also feel into how does the spine move. Exhale back to center. Find your focal points and notice what positions they take as you twist to the right, keeping your left knee open behind you. And come back to center one more time. Twist to the left. Maybe turn the head, look out the far left corners of the eyes. Still, where are my focal points? Am I jutting my chin to get my eyes farther around? Can I come back to integrity of the center channel? Come back to center and twist to the right. Right shoulder blade coming around towards left buttock, looking out the far right corners of the eyes. Fluid breath. Feel pelvis to heart to palate. And unwind and release. And step your feet together, not totally together, into Tadasana. And bend your knees and bring your hands down towards your knees. And lengthen the spine, pelvis towards heart, towards palate. And bring your hands up to your heart. Utkatasana. We're rooting into the four corners of the feet. See if you can bend the knees a little more. Keep lengthening out of the spine. Long spine. Let your arms swing and see if you can let go of them. Where does this movement come from? And then rooting into the pelvis and into the legs. Swing the arms skyward. Lift the heart, lift the gaze. Come into your standing back bend, rooting your tailbone. Lengthening the whole channel of the spine. Exhale. Hands to the heart. Mountain pose. Okay. Let's come down to the floor. Please bring your bolster and your yoga strap and your blocks, if you would like them, and any blankets you might need for Shavasana. I think it's so funny. It's going to be such a hot day and it's kind of cold in my house. Trying to enjoy the cold because later today it might not be so cold. Okay. So lying down on the floor, long spine. Come into constructive rest and just take a few somatic walking steps. And let's pause in the center and float one knee in towards the chest and the other. And circling the knees together, circle around the perimeter of your sacrum and feel the perimeter of your sacrum. Feeling your ilium bones on each side. You're feeling your SI joints on each side. So there's the plate of your pelvis, of your sacrum, sorry. And out of that comes your lumbar spine. So pause with your legs in tabletop and feel for a little mouse tunnel under your lumbar curve. We want that little mouse tunnel, and if it's not there, you may want to put a blanket underneath your sacrum. Lower your right foot to the floor. Lift your left foot up into the strap. And exhale. Let the strap slowly lower the foot towards the floor and inhale back up. And just a nice pendulum. Where does this movement come from? Now come up to the top and lengthen the other leg out on the mat. And take the lifted foot across the body slightly. Remember, that's always the safest direction to go. Down towards the foot of the mat, out to the side a little, and back towards the head. Now, if you're tall, which a few of you are with long limbs, you may not make as big of motions, okay? Because you have a lot to ground into your center of gravity. So feel for how to ground the movement as you take your circles a little bigger and a little bigger. Now, some of you may feel like, oh, I have a very stable center of gravity and I can take my leg, and I have a lot of flexibility, so I can take my leg out. So really decide what's okay for your body and feel into how you ground for the movement. And then bring the leg back up. Take it as far overhead as is comfortable and flex and point the feet. And then bring the foot straight back up towards the sky and open your arms like wings. Now imagine you're stepping on the foot that's towards the sky. You're in your Virabhadrasana 3. Feel where your palate, your heart, and your pelvis are. Fluid breath. Hug in the banks of your river. Ground onto the foot in the sky. And activate your body as if you were standing on the foot that's towards the sky. Find your banks of the river. Support the channel of your spine. Activate your shoulder blades. Keep the neck long. And relax. And let's switch feet. Bringing the next foot up into the strap will pendulum. Now notice if as you pendulum your leg, those of you who have less of a lumbar curve and perhaps more tightness in the hip, your femur bone will bring the pelvis along for the ride, which will also bring your lumbar spine along for the ride. We want to start differentiating the movement of the femur inside the pelvis because we don't always want the lumbar spine to go along for the ride. That can injure the lumbar spine. So that might mean you pendulum lower like this, out towards the foot of the mat, and you just start to distinguish, okay, femur bone, you're moving, but my pelvis is staying pretty steady. And over time, you build on how far that movement will go without you collapsing the lumbar curve. And then come up and lengthen the lower leg out and take the upper leg across the body, down towards the foot of the mat, out, and draw a circle. Draw a circle. Feel your center of gravity. Stay tuned into that center of gravity and don't strain by going outside of your range of control. In Pilates, they call it your point of control. Feel into where your grounding center is and how you can connect that pelvic center to the heart and the palate, and they can all ground you. And then come back up, release your arms like wings, and you've taken your Virabhadrasana 3. If you'd like, you can take your arms overhead along the floor, like they'd be touching fingertips to the wall like we did earlier. Now activate both legs and gently hug the banks of your hip rivers. Find the length of your spine. How do you support it? Imagine you're standing on the foot that's lifted towards the sky and hug in to support your Virabhadrasana 3 pose. And notice where you may need to modify. So some of you with tight shoulders whose hands don't come all the way back, maybe you would, on the wall, you'd be lifted farther up. Maybe here, you're going to hold your arms out and up off the floor a little bit. But you're still going to find that length and strength in the center column, pelvis to heart to palate, no matter what modifications you make with your arms or your legs. Find that center channel, pelvis, heart, palate. Keep it strong in your awareness and arrange the outer body around that center channel. And release. Release the lifted foot and come back. Feet on the floor in your constructive rest and somatic walking. Rocking the pelvis side to side. And step your feet out a little wider. And let your knees come down to the left and stretch your arms overhead or stretch them wide. And breathe into taking your right knee away from the heart center and the palate. And stretching your psoas pathway. You may feel it from inner knee up through the pelvis to the spine. You may feel it particularly on the exhales as you relax into the stretch. And then exhale back through center and take your knees the other way and stretch the left psoas pathway from left inner knee through pelvis to the left side of the lumbar spine, all the way up the fascial connections into the hand. Fluid breath. And come back to center. And float one knee into your chest and then the other, and circle your knees away from each other and back together again. And then take your knees the other way. And then hug the knees in towards your chest, and perhaps you lift your head and you make a tiny little seat of the body, and you flex your feet, you make your feet, your hands, your face, your shoulders, your buttocks, your legs, your tummy. You tighten all those muscles, tighten every muscle you can find. And then exhale and relax them out. You can draw your bolster in under your knees, or you can open your knees into your blocks with the bolster behind your spine in Baddha Konasana, or you can lift your legs up onto furniture with a bolster under your sacrum. Choose your restorative today. And as you rest back, see if you can honor this center channel of your body in your own way. As we deepen our breath, let's draw our attention again into the center channel. And as you begin to gently move, as you move your fingertips, maybe it feels like the movement just really comes from the fingers and the palms themselves, but they don't float out there in space disconnected. Feel into how they're connected into the center channel and to the brain switchboard. And then when you move the arms, where does that movement come from? Or where does it connect back into? Same with the legs, or as you roll over to rest. And then really pay attention as you sit up. Where do you draw the energy so that you can move? And as you're ready, slowly make your way back to a comfortable seat. And as you come to your seat again, make sure you're settled over your sit bones and gently rock forward to back. Where do your muscles gather strength to hold you from falling over backwards or forward? You might have to rock farther forward to find it. And then pause again in your seat. Let's inhale our hands to our hearts. May this week we honor this center channel of energy along the spine. And may we notice it and become more aware in our daily activities. May we also notice our center of gravity and how our movements leak into this center. Namaste. Thank you.